So I got this Team Mexico hat, which I'll get into a little bit later, but you're probably wondering where I got it from. Actually, got it from Seaside Heights, New Jersey, like on the boardwalk there. So, you know, like they have the arcades, so you have like that machine, the claw that comes down, and I've never won anything from those machines before. The only thing I've ever won was this hat, and probably like the strap here probably got caught in the strap and came up here, so that's probably how I got it. Made in China. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, we're just inches away from pitches and catches reporting, or millimeters if you have to be European or watch this in Europe. Baltimore Orioles make some big noise in the AL East and actually might be a thorn in the Yankees' side for years to come. Kind of getting all that. Joe Girardi rejoins the Yankees. Of course, sort of, kind of, kind of get into the whole deal. And of course, now that's pretty much, it seems like the offseason is just about to come to a close. I'll give my final grade for this Yankee team. Again, Brian Cashman, doing some tinkering over the offseason. We had the Soto deal, we had the Verdugo deal, and other pickups Cashman had in. I'll kind of give him the grade there, and we'll kind of grade them on, whether this was like a successful offseason or not. Get into all that good stuff, but before we get started, we have the whole spring training yet to go, and of course the season will be just upon us before you know it. Make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast version of the show. So I know you like watching the show, but like last week we took a little week off, and you're like, oh my God, I'm getting those Section 420 Talkin Yankees. Don't worry about that. If you go to the audio podcast, you get updates as well, so you want to miss anything. So again, wherever you get your favorite podcast, Section 420 Talkin Yankees. And if you're watching this on YouTube right now or on TV and you still haven't done it, I don't know why you haven't done it. It's really quite a mystery. Make sure you subscribe here as well. Again, cover all the bases. So I guess we'll kick off the episode with going into the Yes booth, and it was announced that Joe Girardi will be joining not the Yankee team organization, but of course the Yes Network, kind of doing what he did in the past for the Yankees. It was back in 2004 as well as 2007, being a Yes broadcaster. Now they haven't really specified whether he's going to be doing the color commentary during the game, or just kind of have him up the studio there for like the pre and post game stuff. I think he'll probably be in the booth calling the game. He did that in the past with the Yankees, and again, it was good to listen to, and I think that was part of the reason why he got hired in 2008. Because again, he said a lot of smart things, and it was very entertaining and insightful when he was calling the games there. So that's probably where you would see him, and I think that's where he would serve. So again, he's coming back for that. And again, it's something he did already in 2004 and 2007, so nothing new for him. Just kind of awkward there just because, again, he's a former Yankee there, and to kind of come back, it's almost like taking a lesser job. And you might recall when they let Joe Torre go after the 2007 season, supposedly he was going to the elevators, according to Torre's book, and someone ran out to him like, hey, would you want to go into the Yes booth? Torre's like, no, I'm not doing this. So it is taking a step down a little bit, but you figure for Girardi, I think it's a good way to do it because, he's not managing right now. And after he left the Yankees, he was with the Phillies for a while. So, it's not like he was managing a little bit, and then he's been kind of out of baseball. I think the timing of it is okay. It's not really awkward for him. And he's currently working with the Cubs Marquee Network, which he'll continue to do. So he's kind of split time between two organizations. And we've seen David Cohn do that a little bit with the Yankees, as well as MLB Network, and some work with the Kansas City Royals. So I don't think there's a big deal there. And again, it's just good to see Girardi back. I like Girardi. Obviously the Yankees, after the 2017 season, decided to go in a different direction. I thought he got a raw deal there. He bought a team that had no expectations in 2017 and got him one game away from the World Series, and then they, canned him just because it seemed like maybe some players just rubbed some players the wrong way, mainly like Aroldis Chapman, Gary Sanchez, and so forth there. So kind of got a little, mess. It wasn't really a good ending there, but nevertheless, for him to come back, I think it's good there. And they kind of mentioned, isn't it kind of awkward that you're going to be calling games and maybe perhaps criticizing the guy who took your job? But he said it's kind of water on the bridge, and so many years has passed, it doesn't really matter anymore. And really, the only player that Girardi managed that's still with the team right now is Aaron Judge, and that was kind of his first full year. Technically, if you want to say, Gleyber Torres was with the Yankee system, probably in the minors there, so maybe Girardi might have spent some time with Gleyber in spring training in 2017. But other than that, it's a totally different team. So, and again, Girardi's been doing some other stuff. He's done some work for Fox as well, baseball there. So I think enough time has passed where it's not totally awkward for him to come back. But it's going to be interesting just to see, is he going to question, if Boone decides to, call for a steal and it was the wrong move, is Girardi going to criticize that? And just kind of see be in a position to criticize the guy who took your job essentially there. So that'll be kind of the interesting take on the whole thing. And, is this ownership, is this like the ownership maybe trying to send a signal to Boone, like, hey, we got this guy here, and not that I would say like they would fire Boone or something like that and put Girardi back in, but if it is kind of interesting because when Girardi was doing color commentary in 2004, well, a year after that he became part of the Yankees. I think it was Torrey's bench coach. Then you look at 2007 when he was doing the color commentary. Next thing you know, he's the Yankee manager there. So I don't know if they're throwing Girardi there, just kind of send this little signal to Boone, like, all right, let's get here with the deep playoff run in a World Series. We could bring a lot of players in there, so. Could be a little bit of that, but nevertheless, I'm happy to see Girardi back. I like them. And we have more exciting off-the-field news. Well, it does concern the Yankees, and it concerns the sale of the Baltimore Oriole organization. As you may have heard, because the Angelos family is finally selling off the team, which if you're a Baltimore Oriole fan, I'm sure you're happy about that, and they've been complaining about the organization for a number of years. Again, not spending money, kind of being in the dumps a little bit now. Obviously, things are different these days with the Baltimore Orioles, starting with 2022. Made that late season run for the second wildcard spot, didn't get it, but nevertheless, 2023, a big breakout season for them, where they won 101 games with exciting young team that's probably going to be good for the next 5 or 10 years. But now it even gets better for them because now they're selling this team to an ownership group that looks to be dedicated, to be spending money, kind of prop up the Baltimore Orioles, kind of the way they were in the late 90s, where they used to have some big stars going there, like Albert Bell, of course, you had like Harold Baines there for a while. I mean, they used to bring in free agents there, and then, of course, since kind of after that period, really the last 20-something years, the Angelos family's kind of been penny pinching, and Baltimore Orioles, again, for the majority of the years of the past 20 years, have kind of been in the dumps. I know when Buck Showalter was a little bit kind of resurrected there for 2 or 3 years, but again, things have been kind of lowly in Baltimore, but now that's all going to change. Not because they have a good team right now, because with this new ownership group headed by Paul Rubenstein. Now, he's a Baltimore Oriole fan himself, so kind of like similar with the Mets and Steve Cohen. Like, you kind of want your owner to also be a fan of the team as well, just kind of be passionate and want to spend money. So this guy's worth about $4.6 billion. Now, it's a part of an ownership group, which also includes Cal Ripken Jr., of course, the Baltimore Oriole great, as well as the Angelos family. So John Angelos still is going to have a stake in the team. He's on as a senior advisor, but basically he's just going to stay home and get a paycheck somewhere. So this Paul Rubenstein guy, he's going to have 40% control of the team, but he's, I guess, going to be the shot caller. Now, the Angelos families have control of the Orioles since 1993. Mainly it was first the father, Peter Angelos, but right now he's 94, and I guess he's getting on in age a little bit, and health not too good. And I guess, again, the son, John Angelos, never really seemed to be into the team that much. Again, kind of reminds me a little bit like Dan Schneider, who used to own the Washington Commanders right now. He used to be the Redskins, but kind of like that kind of guy that was like involved but not really involved. So he's going to sell off to his new team now. How you figure, well, how does it affect the Yankees? Well, now you got to worry about the Baltimore Orioles now actually spending money and being a good, legit team. Now, before the Corbin Burns trade, which I'll get into, and again, kind of, circumvents this whole thing there, their payroll was only $77 million. Now, by adding Burns, it kicks up to about $100 million, but now with this ownership group, they're probably going to commit now to spending more money, and now this is a team that the Yankees have to worry about now in the AL East, because the Yankees got to face them a bunch of times a year, and if they have a good team, well, now, back, maybe about 5 years ago, you would look at those Baltimore Oriole games like, all right, win, great. Well, now that's not the case anymore. In fact, you might be L, and now you look around the rest of the AL East. Well, Tampa's still pretty good. They're like almost like a 95-plus win team. Toronto's up and down a little bit, but they're always kind of a threat. And now the Boston Red Sox, ironically enough, even though they're supposed to be the big rival, they're kind of the team a bit in the basement. I mean, they've had a real quiet off season. But it's still the rival. It's still the Red Sox. You still figure they're going to get up for those games. So you really have now no easy games in the AL East there. So this is going to be tough for the Yankees. And now, just mentioned before, the trade right after this announcement was made of the sale, which is worth about $1.725 billion. You figure it'd be worth a little bit more than that. But nevertheless, they make a trade for Corbin Burns from the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, this was kind of, a little bit weird because, the Yankees were kind of pursuing him. You heard his name for a while. Now, look, of course, I would like to get the guy, but, this guy's going into free agency in 2025. So if you're going to make a deal for him, there's a case where you're going to have to give up prospects, probably some of your top prospects, and the guy's going to hit free agency anyway. Well, we kind of have this situation already with Juan Soto. So I don't, again, since the guy was out here, it's a little bit egg on Cashman's face because, one of your AL East foes got their hands on Burns and you didn't. And I'll get into the details of the trade there, but I don't blame Cashman too much for going for this one, just because of the fact that, look, we've already given a lot of prospects to get Juan Soto here. You're giving up prospects to get Verdugo in here. I mean, we kind of empty out the tank a little bit. You can't just give up your whole farm. You got to keep some prospects for later down the road. So we don't know really what the asking price was ultimately for Corbin Burnes, but I guess, they were, whatever Baltimore was able to offer, they found it, I guess, appealing enough to send him out. So they sent him out to Baltimore, and now the Yankees don't have to worry, not only have to worry about a 101-win Baltimore Oriole team from last season, now they have Corbin Burnes, and this is a guy you might face 5 times a year, and you might think, well, how will they face up against him? Well, in a 3-game set, the Brewers came to Yankee Stadium in 2023. Burnes pitched one of those games, and he had 8 shutout innings. So that's what the Yankees have to look forward to in 2024 now. So this guy, so Milwaukee is going to receive from Baltimore 2 prospects. So one was shortstop Joey Ortiz. Now, he had 15 appearances in 2023. Nothing. That's really a small test. You can't really say how good he was. But again, he's a shortstop, 25 years old now. He was ranked the 63rd best prospect by MLB.com, 63rd. So it's not like great there. And then the other player involved in the deal, also 25 years old, left-handed pitcher DL Hall. We don't know what the DL stands for. Maybe disabled list, or I don't know. But anyway, he had 29 appearances in the majors over the past 2 seasons to an ERA of 4.36. So that's not really terrific. So you look at these 2 prospects. All right, the 63rd prospect in baseball, like, okay, it's 63rd. It's not like, 10th or 5th or even like 20th, 63rd. And then some left-handed pitchers kind of like, a 4.36 ERA. It's not really terrific here. So, it could have seemed like this guy was really due him. I'm sure the Yankees could have put something better, equal, or better than that to get this guy, even though you don't really want to empty out your farm system right now. So it is kind of weird. But you also got to look on the other team sides with the Milwaukee Brewers. Are they dying to help the New York Yankees? And because it's the Yankees, it's the top teams. Like, it's similar in football. Are teams dying to help the Dallas Cowboys? No, of course not. So you can see them just want to stick it to the Yankees in a way indirectly. It's like, all right, if you look at Baltimore and Milwaukee, very similar, kind of mid-level city type teams, not really big money type teams there. So, they might have been willing to take less from Baltimore and maybe wanted more from the Yankees. So, again, we don't know really what Milwaukee was asking for, but nevertheless, Burnes now goes to the Baltimore Orioles, and this is what you got to worry about now, because maybe a year or 2 ago, Baltimore would not have done this deal with the Angelos family in charge, but now with this Paul Rubenstein group together, now they'll be willing to take on contracts. That's what I mentioned before. Their payroll before this deal was $77 million. Now it's kicked up to about $100 million just because they're bringing him in there to get, obviously he's going to get an arbitration contract. Now after this, he's a free agent. So is Baltimore going to re-sign him? They might do so, and it seems like, again, they want to put money to this team, so that's the case. But if you're Brian Cashman and the Yankees, well, you could just get him in free agency as well. So you may think in Cashman's point of view, might be like, all right, we got a starter there with Stroman, we got that locked down. And if we want Burnes next offseason, well, we just get him out in free agency, and we don't have to give up any of our prospects. So that could have been Cashman's angle of it. Now Burnes is 29 years old. So even 1 year from now, he'll be 30. He still figures his prime. So if you want to go after him, and he still has probably about 5 or 6 prime years left of him, you could do that. He's a fastball, high velocity type of guy. He'll still probably have his fastball for the next 5 years. So the Yankees could pursue him there and not give up any prospects. So that's probably what the thinking was on Cashman's end there. But now this overall, you have to worry about that now. This Baltimore team, they won 101 games last season. They're young. They're going to be good this season. Now they got Burnes, and now they got this new ownership group that wants to put money to them. So now they can bring other free agents, and now this is a team that the Yankees got to worry about because you got to face them a whole bunch of times this season because, again, they're in your division. Now, one of the few question marks remaining of the offseason was, would the Yankees sign Wandy Peralta after as a free agent? Now, I thought they would. Ultimately, didn't. He bolts for San Diego. He gets a 4-year contract worth $16.5 million, so get about $4 million per year. Now, I was okay. Look, I wanted him back, but I don't think the Yankees should have given him a 4-year deal. So, I'm not gonna blame Cashman or being cheap or Hal Steinbrenner being cheap on this deal there. It's just the fact that, and I kind of mentioned in the previous episode, Cashman traditionally does not like to give more than 2 years on a deal for a reliever. It's just the way it is. Relievers are up and down now. Look, I like Wandy Peralta. He's consistent. I think he's someone that, let's say you gave him a 4-year deal, he'd probably be, good for most of that deal. But still, it's a 4-year deal. He's 32 years old, so you're starting now talking about the middle to the other bad side of 35, where we just see a lot of, and across baseball, whether it's mainly with hitters, but also pitchers as well, really take a decline once they get near that 35 mark there. So I was okay with Cashman kind of putting the brakes on that one. Now he did have a quick solution there, and that'll be Khalid Ferguson, which I'll get to in a second there. But getting back to Wandy Peralta, and look, I liked him. He was a good Yankee, and this is a good Cashman trade where you want to blame Cashman for a lot of things, but he does have a good eye. Mainly, he's getting pitches from other teams, and we've seen this with Wandy Peralta. Trading for someone from the Giants who's not even in baseball anymore, getting people like Clay Holmes, getting people like Nestor Cortez. has, and of course Peralta, like making these trades. So he's good at identifying good pitches on other teams. He does that well here. But to give Peralta a 4-year deal, I think it's a little too much. Again, he's a good reliever, but he's not like he's not like someone like a Chapman that you would maybe consider doing that when Chapman was good, or Mariano Rivera, like when Mario, or Billy Wagner when he was in his heyday. Those are the only people you would consider giving like a 4 or 5 year deal there too. But we're not doing Peralta, who's just good late inning pitcher. He can pitch under pressure. He's a good pitcher, but 4 years for a reliever, I wouldn't do that. So I'm okay letting him walk. Now, at the time before the Ferguson trade, the Yankees were going to go to war with a crop of lefties they got, and that was Victor Gonzalez, who they previously got with trade with the Dodgers. Of course, you had Matt Crook. You have Nick Ramirez, who was already on the roster. Now, they did briefly, this guy was here for a cup of coffee, had Matt Gage. Now, Matt Gage got designated for assignment from the Houston Astros. That's when they signed Josh Bader to be the closer. So he's in the Yankee uniform. I don't even think he got into the Yankee uniform yet, but he was on paper. He was a New York Yankee. And I had all these great stats from Matt Gage, and I was trying to sell him to you. But then, of course, it turns out he was involved in the deal to get Ferguson. So initially, they said the Yankees traded for Khalib Ferguson to the Dodgers. They were going to send 2 prospects. They didn't say what the 2 were yet, but it turns out Matt Gage will be one of them. So he's a lefty there. Yeah, he had some good numbers there in the minors. Really his strikeout ratio. I'm not going to get into the numbers because he's not a New York Yankee anymore. So the heck with him. Good bon voyage. Have a good time there in LA with Ohtani and Yamamoto. But now we'll get into the Khalib Ferguson numbers. So and you got to give Cashman to this one. He's almost a carbon copy of Wandy Peralta. Just he's a left-hander. He could dial it up there. He could pitch late in the games. And if you want to give, let's say Clay Holmes is the de facto closer right now, he has no problem closing out a game. He can do it as well. The only really bad thing about him is that he does enter free agency in 2025. So this is just like a 1-year rental type of guy, which is okay. I mean, we'll just, the Yankees is really kicking the can down the road just to get another left-handed reliever, which I mentioned previously. If you lose them, it's not a big deal. I mean, relievers are relievers. You could get them almost any time, especially around the trade deadline. You'll find half of baseball teams are not even in the playoff hunt anymore, and you could just get a lefty reliever off one of those rosters with a trade or something like that. So it wasn't a big deal, but it's good for Cashman. Really, after a heartbeat, after Wandy's gone, he pulls a trade off to get someone high-quality person who could flip right in the role there. So you have to give Cashman a little salute on that one here. So let's get into Ferguson's numbers here. So he's 27 years old. So last year with the Dodgers, he posted a 7-4 record, ERA of 3.43. So you'd like it maybe be closer to 3, not really 3.5, but nevertheless, pretty decent ERA. 70 strikeouts in 60 1/3 innings. So this guy's averaging about more than a strikeout per inning. That's what you like to see. And that's kind of what Peralta was. Peralta was a strikeout pitcher. Good thing about Peralta, he could pitch for righties and lefties. Not too sure if this guy is good against both, but nevertheless, this guy seems to be a strikeout pitcher and a whip of 1.44. And again, he could dial it up there to 94, 95 miles per hour, like Peralta was able to do in a jam if he was able to do. Now, he had 68 appearances last season, so quite durable. Now, 7 of those 68 were starts, but it was used as an opener, and that's the whole Tampa thing where we use an opener for the first inning, and then you bring in someone for 3 innings, and that's that's your bullpen game there. So this guy's had a few starts, but again, that's only for a bullpen. But again, overall, if you're gonna have someone to trade someone to replace Wandy Peralta, this guy you could fit right in here. And of course, it was Matt Gage who gets sent out there, as well as the Yankees sent out prospect Christian Zazueta. I don't know anything about him, but again, the two of them have a good time with Ohtani. Maybe Ohtani will buy them a Porsche. He's buying everybody Porsches. Now, towards the end of spring training this year, the Yankees are going to go south of the border there. They announced an exhibition game. So before we start, we got to get my Mexican Soccer League hat on there. So the Yankees are going to go into Mexico City to play an exhibition game with the Diablos Rojos. I'm assuming that means Red Devils, kind of like the New Jersey Devils. Now, this is something they've done before, but back in 1968, and I'll kind of give it a history of this thing. But nevertheless, these 2 games will take place. So it's to be March 24th and March 25th. Going down there to Mexico City. Now, this is going to be a split squad game, so it seems like on the calendar, the Yankees also have games scheduled in Florida, the normal with the Pirates and the Mets. So, obviously, probably not the whole Yankee team's going to go down there, and we're not sure if, Judge is going down there, all the stars. But there are some teams that have, some players on the Yankee team who have Mexican heritage roots there. So, that would be Trevino, working his way back from the wrist injury. Victor Gonzalez, who I just mentioned before, who they got from the Dodgers, as well as Verdugo. So, possibly they might go down there just to, obviously family or heritage or whatever, nevertheless. But I think it'll be good for stars like Judge to go down there just because it's Aaron Judge and you're trying to promote the game and spread the game out a little bit. So, I wouldn't be shocked if Judge goes down there as well. So, that whole thing can take place. Now, as I mentioned before, the Yankees have done this previously in 1968. It was actually Mickey Mantle's last season. Now, you might ask, well, how did the Yankees do? Now, they faced this very same Diablos Rojos team Red Devils. And they're kind of like the New York Yankees of the Mexican Baseball League. They've won 16 championships over the year compared to the Yankees 27. So these are like the two best organizations from MLB and the Mexican Baseball League going at it. So getting back to 1968 there. So the Yankees had two games there. One was March 18th, 1968. So the Yankees actually lost that first game 5-3. But then 2 days later, March 20th, won that second game and in a blowout 9-1. Now, the reason I mentioned why I think Judge should go down there, because this was Mickey Mantle's last season. You figure, well, did Mickey Mantle make the trip? Well, I actually did a little research, and it turns out he did. And in fact, in the second exhibition game, he actually hit a home run. So if Mickey Mantle on his last season, where he could be like, maybe didn't know he was going to retire or not, kind of like, I'm not making that trip. Well, he actually made the trip and hit a home run there. So if he could do it, I think Aaron Judge should go down. So I would very well predict Aaron Judge to, go down there and participate in the game. Again, you want to promote the game. And we've seen the Yankees do this before. I think the year 2004 when they got Giambi, they played in Japan for a couple of games. I think A-Rod hit a home run in one of those games. And of course, remember the Yankees had the UK trip, which was a disaster just because we don't know if it was the open air field, what it was, but the ball is getting hit all over the place. I think the first game, the final score was like a football score. And the Yankees have also gone to South America back in 2014 at the request of Mariano Rivera to go play the Panama team there. So the Yankees have done some little traveling, and we've seen baseball try to do this a little bit. It's kind of like the NFL, where they're trying to promote the game in Europe and Mexico and other places like that. So, I think it's all right. And it kind of makes sense, too. It's at the end of spring training there. So, the first, obviously, the season starts off in Houston. So, the players from Mexico City can just make the quicker trip to Houston versus going all the way back to like Florida or New York, then go back down there. So, it seems like, maybe half the team will go up that meet Houston there, and the other team will come from Florida, and they all go there, meet and play in Houston to open the season again in their nice new Yankee road uniforms. So, since we're at the moment where pitchers and catchers are starting to walk into the spring training complex, even though a couple of them like Nestor Cortez and Rodon have been there for a while, I think it's a good time now to kind of take an assessment team, take a step back, and how you want to grade the off season for the Yankees, because it's kind of critical. You knew they're going to make a lot of moves as the fact they finished at 82 and 80 last season, didn't come close to the playoffs, and really the whole second half of the season. I mean, there was a little moment that gave you a little hope there, where I guess that was a moment when Judge came back and they called up Jason Dominguez, and he kind of got on a roll there, and they kind of won like 6-7 games in a row. I was like, hey, maybe they can make a run here, but then that all went out the window once Dominguez had to go down with Tommy John surgery, which for a position player, I still can't figure out how that even happens. Nevertheless, it did, and he seems to be recovering well, and Boone mentioned that he's actually ahead of his timetable, so hopefully maybe we get to see him even before July. But nevertheless, with all that in mind, you knew the Yankees would have to make some moves there just because the fan base and everything else and the media, I mean, they was going to call for it, so you knew we were going to make some moves. So I guess, it's time now how we want to judge and grade the Yankees. Now, going in, they had a couple of problems. Obviously, they needed to get some left-handed bats. They needed a left fielder. They need to maybe tweak the bullpen a little bit, and so, let's see how they approach those things. Now, all that in mind, of course, first, they made the trade to bring in Verdugo, which I liked, and that's obviously at the time satisfied the left field as well as the left-hand bat need. Now, they didn't really make any big moves in terms of like trade any big players away, like DJ, Gleyber Torres, like that. The problem is that those guys are all sort of like something like Stanton locked in. You really can't move those players, so it'd be hard to really judge, well, you weren't able to trade Stanton. Well, you really can't trade Stanton because no one's going to take him there, so I really doesn't hold that against Cashman, but, you did want him to add players to help the team, so yes, adding someone like Verdugo, adding someone like Juan Soto is like a superstar. I mean, he's one of the best hitters and players in the game, so now you got him in your lineup there, and of course, they need to do something with the starters now. Look, I think Marcus Stroman, if you give me Stroman, Montgomery, Blake Snell, Yamamoto. Of course, yeah, you'd like to take Yamamoto number one. But again, I think the Yankees gave him a fair offer, but it seemed like he was wanting to go to the Dodgers the whole way. So again, I'm not going to really put that on Cashman, nor do I think the Yankees should have broke the bank at like $400 million or $350 million to get this guy there. So I don't blame the Yankees for him going to the Dodgers there. So again, I give Cashman a pass on that. Would have been nice to get Blake Snell in here versus Marcus Stroman. Yeah, okay. But the Stroman deal is not really that terrible. It's only 2 years. He's 32 years old. He's still in his prime. He was an all-star last year. I know he didn't have a good second half there, but I think it was a good move for the Yankees. Again, only a 2-year commitment. Blake Snell wanted the 6 years, which I think is a little overkill. It'd be nice if you could kind of get him in here for like maybe a 4-year deal, maybe if you pad up the amount per year there. But it's still okay. And again, Snell's still floating around out there. Possibly, maybe somehow he comes in at the door last minute. It could be possible if no one signs him. He's like, okay, I got to go play somewhere because, spring training's right here, there. So but I don't expect to do. I think the Yankees they're kind of set on their starting rotation. That's probably the reason why they really didn't pursue Burns any further. They probably figure, all right, we got Cole, we got Stroman, we got Rondon, who we're paying a ton of money to. Hope he comes back. Nestor Cortez should have a good bounce back year, and Clark Schmidt as your fifth starter, not terrible at all. So I think the Yankees are pretty much set on the rotation. So I don't think you'll see a last minute deal for Snell, even though it'd be nice. So I think the Yankees did a decent job given all the factors with the rotation, bringing in Soto, and of course, the bullpen. The only thing I would say about the bullpen, I would have liked maybe a little bit more of a short bet. I mean, of course, we lost Michael King, of course, in the Juan Soto deal. But Clay Holmes is still right now, you said, a de facto closer, and still not too comfortable with him. I mean, obviously had a great start of the 2022 season. The second, kind of the last piece of that season wasn't too good for him. And then last season, 2023, a little bit up and down. Now, towards the end of the year, he got a little bit better, but you still don't feel fully confident with him as the closer. So I think if the Yankees could have bought in maybe another closer option that you feel a bit confident, that would be a little better with. But so I would say the bullpens is a little bit still shaky there. I like the Ferguson trade I just mentioned before, just to kind of replace Wandy there. But you still really don't have a replacement for your Michael King. Now, could that be someone like Luke Weaver, who they brought in here, who could spot start and possibly throw out a bullpen? And again, kind of has some nasty stuff like King does, like with his sliders, stuff like that. So maybe Luke Weaver grows into that role. And plus, you got Loizaga, hoping he has a bounce back season. Maybe he's somebody you count on late innings there. So the bullpen is kind of where maybe Cashman kind of left a little bit more to be desired. But other than that, I think he did a pretty good job. Yes. Now in terms of the grade, I probably they probably deserve a B plus, but I'm gonna be optimistic. I'm gonna give him an A, not an A plus, but just an A. Maybe an A minus. We'll settle on A minus. We'll give Cashman an A minus. Now, if he was able to get Juan Soto and Yamamoto, then you would say A plus, no doubt about it. But the Yamamoto deal, I think that was out of the Yankees' hands, so I'm not going to blame him totally on that. But I'll give the Yankees an A minus. I mean, just the fact that you brought in Juan Soto here, the guy's a superstar. And plus, you only got him for 1 year. You're not on the hook, some sort of 10-year deal like you're dragging the guy. He's like 38, 39 years old and always on the IL there. So I thought the Soto move was good. You had to give up a lot to get him, but this is a win-now team. You need a good player. You need someone you can put right there in the lineup and be a superstar. And you pair him with Judge there, and I think that works. And of course, you're looking for Aaron Judge. Obviously, he missed like 50-something games last season with that freak toe injury, which, again, that was just like a freak injury. You don't see that happening again in 2024. So obviously, I think we're going to see a better version of Judge, which means we'll see a better version of some of the other players like DJ, like Stanton, like Gleyber Torres, and of course now you add Soto to that mix. And of course, look at the lineup in general. It's a little bit longer now. You have more left-hand at bats, such as Verdugo, such as Austin Wells, now the backup catcher, and even Trent Grisham, who came in the Soto deal there. Now he's someone also you can put out in center field. And of course, once we get towards the middle part of the season, we have Jason Dominguez to look forward to, who again just came up just for a week in 2023 and gave us a couple of home runs, gave us some excitement. Again, his first home run was off of Justin Verlander of all people there. So I think you have him to look forward to. So again, the roster will be much better than they were last season there. And again, it can't be any worse than 82 and 80 there. So I think the team will be much better. And again, Cashman, a couple easy questions though, but I think he did a good job with the roster, with the starting rotation. Bullpen, still a little bit worried about, but you still have enough pieces there we could put it together. And as I mentioned, previously, bullpens, you could always get arms elsewhere. Just again, once you get to the midpoint of the season on the trade deadline, players become available. And if the bullpen, I don't think the bullpen would be terrible. Again, the Yankee bullpen last season was pretty good because now again, minus Michael King now, but of course, but again, you could find some other people. And of course, the Yankees brought a lot of arms in here this offseason. Again, whether getting players off the waiver wire, making little small deals, small trades, minor league deals, spring training invites, and I'm sure he could put a bullpen together, so not too worried about it. But so for the Yankees and Cashman, I'm going to give them the A minus. So that's the episode. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast, both the audio version as well as here on YouTube, and enjoy your pitches and catches.